I'm here actually at NTV Studios tonight, and I am joined by Curtis, Daryl, and Wallace, and they are cartoonists. And coming up this Friday is Comic Jam. It's for children or for people under the age of 19. And the following Monday, there's going to be a Comic Jam for adults, and they're going to tell you everything you ever wanted to know about making cartoons, creating your own comic book. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And later in our broadcast, we're going to hear from Wallace, and he's going to show us some of the things that the guys are doing here while we're on the air, and we'll share that with you when we come back. But right now, it's time to take our first look at the forecast, beginning with the continental satellite shot. Thank you very much, Lynn, and welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here inside tonight at the NTV Studios with three local cartoonists. I have Curtis, Daryl, and to my left is Wallace Ryan. And of course, many of you will be familiar with Wallace's work. Wallace does the Sunday Telegram cartoon every weekend, and a number of other things as well. And the reason they're here tonight is because coming up this Friday, they're going to be holding Comic Jam, and it's for people 19 years of age and under. It's going to be at the Anna Templeton Center. And then on Monday, they're going to have a Comic Jam for adults. And maybe you can tell the folks at home a little bit more about those.
Yeah, the adult one will be at the Ship Pub down on Duckworth Street, so that's obviously for people over the age of 19. And the one this Friday, we call it the Teen Commando Jam, will be for people under the age of 19. And the jam for the younger folks is usually to show them how to draw and that type of thing, where the older jam is for people who are sort of more experienced cartoonists.
And what are some of the things now? What are Curtis and Daryl doing?
Well, Curtis is working on his quarterly comic, Danny Edwards. It's actually it's one of my personal favorites, and it's roughly semi-autobiographical, maybe not, hard to say, but it's a great comic, and it's you can get it at downtown shops, Downtown Comics downtown, which sells a lot of comics for sort of up-and-coming artists. Daryl here is working on, it's a graphic novel he's starting to work on about his father who was in the army. And which is very neat, and Daryl and I work on other projects together. We're working on one, Bagman, which is sort of a fantasy comic, and it's kind of interesting. He's working on one about his father who was in the army, and I'm working on one about my grandfather who was one of the first 500. So it sort of shows that comics, besides being superhero stuff, is you can actually approach a lot of serious issues with it, right? Kind of like I do with the editorial cartoons.
So how big are comics in this province? How interested are people in comics and creating comics or collecting comics?
Well, these days it's definitely growing a lot more. I teach courses, actually comic book courses, down at the Anna Templeton Center. Coming up, for instance, this winter I'll be teaching 4 different courses. Like there'll be one about Japanese comics, one about humorous cartooning, editorial cartooning, and coloring for comics. And I've been doing it for several years, and so it's sort of like I'm starting to meet a lot of people who were my students. And well, Daryl and I actually, we met at the College of North Atlantic doing the graphic design program there, and both of us very interested in comics. And I actually believe it was Daryl was one who actually first brought up the idea of a comic jam. We were talking in the back of class there one day, and somehow it came to fruition. Well, a lot of people helped out, like Katie Parnham at the Anna Templeton Center, who at the time was the owner of the Ship Inn, let us start up there, and she also invited us into the Anna Templeton Center to do the teen jam for young people.
Should people be intimidated, you know, if they're going to go to the Comic Jam for teens or the adult Comic Jam? Should they be intimidated if they can't even draw a stick person properly?
Not at all. It's people can come even if they just want to talk about comics or whatever. But even for beginners, I've seen people who've actually done stickmen comics that are actually brilliant, right? So it's and everyone is at their own level too. So we try. It tends to have a very cooperative atmosphere. People are sort of sharing drawings, and I think we try to keep it so friendly that there's sort of not that sort of element of it. It's more sort of cooperative and having a look at what each other is doing and that type of thing.
What's most important with creating a good comic? Is it the writing or the artistry?
It's funny you should say that, because that's one of the first questions that I toss out to my class. And the answer is it's actually both of them. It's a combination of the art and the letter and the words to form what's called storytelling. So you have writing and painting or drawing, but together you form something that's storytelling. That's sort of a mixture of both of them. So you're using the pictures to support the script, but the script obviously wouldn't be anywhere without the pictures. So they are really, really intertwined, and neither can really sort of stand on its own, because I've seen comics that were beautifully drawn, but the script was just so poor you could cry. It was beautifully drawn but terrible script. So you really have to have both for it to work.
What time, we're going to have to move on to the weather, but what time do these jams start? Friday, it's...
from 6 to 8 on Friday, and the 100 proof jam, which will be next Monday, will be from 8 o'clock on. And we usually have, our jams are usually the last Monday of every month. It's just with December where they're so packed down there, we do it early in the month. But if anyone's interested in comics, just drop on down to the jams. Like I say, last Monday of every month, they'll always find us at the ship-in drawing there, all right?
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again, of course, before we say goodnight. But right now, it's time to move on to the weather forecast. First of all, showing you how things looked around North America today.